The highly anticipated zombie thriller is finally here. It received a high score of 9.4 right after its release. With a mature man and a clever little girl, it will definitely bring a unique experience to the zombie apocalypse. In the summer of 2003, an ordinary high school student named Sarah finished her classes for the day, as usual. However, instead of heading straight home, she went to a watch repair shop. It was her father's birthday, and she planned to fix his favorite watch as a gift. Police cars kept whizzing past the shop, but Sarah was already used to it. Recently, there had been frequent incidents of people getting hurt. The repair shop owner, however, seemed particularly nervous and decided to close early. She felt there were more police cars today. Fortunately, Sarah's father's watch was already fixed, so she was hurried out of the shop. Since her father hadn't come home from work yet, she habitually went to the neighbor's house. She noticed the pet dog staring at the paralyzed old lady. Without thinking much, she left the neighbor's house and saw several fighter jets roaring past. She felt uneasy. Could something really be happening today? It wasn't until after 10 p.m. that the father, Joel, returned home, exhausted. There was no birthday cake, no well wishes from friends or family, but his daughter had fixed it. This deeply moved Joel. The father and daughter watched TV together until late at night. Joel's phone suddenly rang. It was his brother Tommy, who had beaten up a man who suddenly went crazy and now needed his brother to bail him out. Joel felt a bit anxious. After making sure his daughter was asleep, he hurried out. Not long after, Sarah was awakened by the sound of helicopters. She went downstairs and turned on the TV, which was broadcasting an emergency notice urging citizens to stay indoors. Sarah was in a different time when she suddenly noticed her neighbor's pet dog barking outside. She decided to return it to her neighbor. But as soon as she reached the door, the dog ran away in fear. Seeing the neighbor's open door, Sarah curiously walked in. She immediately noticed a pool of thick blood. Not far away lay the elderly neighbor, barely alive. The little girl was terrified and didn't know what to do. Suddenly, there was a faint noise in the hallway. It was the paralyzed old lady from next door, licking the bloodstains with her mouth full of some strange substance. Terrified, Sarah quickly backed away and ran outside. At the door, he happened to meet his father, who had just returned. Unexpectedly, the elderly neighbor also came out. Without much thought, Joel struck her down with an axe. The little girl was too scared to speak. Her father, realizing the seriousness of the situation on his way back, quickly put her in a small truck and urged his brother to drive quickly. At this moment, there were already sporadic infected people on the streets, and police cars were whizzing by everywhere. Sarah had no idea what was happening, and Joel was also only partially aware. Earlier, the radio reported that the infection might be caused by a fungus that could drive people insane. He planned to escape from here first. There was someone constantly asking for help on the road. Joel was determined not to let his brother stop, even if it was a child. As they were about to leave the city, a massive traffic jam occurred on the highway. Tommy, the younger brother, had to take a detour through the wilderness, only to find the road ahead blocked by the military. After much wandering, they arrived at a suburban town, only to find the situation even worse. Could it be the end of the world? The streets are filled with raging infected and fleeing crowds. Suddenly, a plane crashes down, causing a massive explosion.
You look at me.
When Joel woke up, he found his daughter's leg injured. He managed to help her to the road, but suddenly an out-of-control police car crashed into them. Tommy was instantly trapped by the fire near the wall. The chaos was overwhelming. He told his brother to leave him and meet up by the river later. Joel, worried about his daughter's safety, quickly carried her towards the outskirts. The streets are filled with infected people preying on humans. The situation is worse than before. A father and daughter are quickly targeted by an infected person. Joel has no choice but to flee into the nearest restaurant. Unexpectedly, the infected person follows closely, relentlessly pursuing them. Joel used all his strength to escape through the back door of the restaurant. Just as he was about to be caught, a gunshot rang out, and the infected fell to the ground. It turned out to be a patrolling soldier who happened to pass by. But when they saw the injured Sarah, they immediately became tense. After consulting their superior via walkie-talkie, they directly opened fire. Joel instinctively rolls with his daughter, narrowly dodging the shot. The attacker tries to shoot again, but suddenly someone shoots him from behind. It turns out to be his brother, Tommy. Joel checked the wound. The bullet had only grazed him. But his daughter wasn't so lucky. Blood was pouring from her abdomen, and she was gasping for breath. Joel cried out to rush to the hospital, but his brother stood still with a sorrowful face because Sarah had already stopped breathing. 20 years later, humanity still hasn't developed a cure or vaccine. The unknown fungus has ravaged the earth, creating an apocalyptic scene everywhere. The authorities have set up quarantine zones in densely populated survivor areas and occasionally accept people from the wild. As long as they test negative for infection, they are admitted into the quarantine zone. Life inside has drastically changed. Strict laws are in place, such as not disturbing the order and not entering or leaving the quarantine zone freely. Any violation results in the death penalty. This is the harsh reality of the zombie apocalypse. Ordinary survivors can only survive by doing hard labor in exchange for ration cards, which act like currency. The protagonist, Joel, earns just enough ration cards for 3 meals by transporting corpses for a day. Fortunately, he has his own means to obtain sedative pills, which he sells to soldiers suffering from insomnia for some extra income. Joel is now most worried about his brother Tommy, who has been out on a mission for 3 weeks without. The tower manager who benefited told Joel that the last message from Tommy was relayed through the Costa station. Without wasting any time, Joel went home to check the exact location of the Costa station. If the younger brother had an accident, it must be nearby. The world is very chaotic now, with not only bloodthirsty and frenzied infected people, but also bandits and robbers everywhere. Even within the quarantine zone, there are many resistance groups, with the Fireflies being the most powerful. But Joel can't worry about that now. His main focus is to go out and find his brother. The next morning, Joel's partner Tess brought some bad news. The car battery they had bought was stolen. Human technology has severely regressed. Not only is gasoline scarce, but even car batteries have become rare resources. Joel's heart sank. Without a car, they can't go out to find his brother. Now, they can only try to get the battery back. The two spent a lot of money at the market and finally found out where the bandits' hideout was. But when they reached the place through the sewers, it was eerily quiet, as if no one had lived there for a long time. Tess suddenly let out a scream. There was a corpse of an infected person on the wall. It was unclear how long it had been there, but fungi had started to grow from it. The two searched every corner. Finally, they discovered a hidden passage, but it was blocked by an iron door at the end. Joel noticed blood seeping through the door crack and immediately sensed danger. Forcing the door open, he found the hallway littered with bodies. The robbers who stole the battery were among them. Joel shone his flashlight and found the battery was damaged. Before he could feel frustrated, he noticed a noise coming from the end of the hallway. Two people were supporting each other, moving slowly. Joel quietly approached, planning to subdue them. Suddenly, a figure with a knife rushed out. Joel looked closely and saw it was a child, around 10 years old. The two people ahead also turned around, and both sides breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out they had interacted a few times before. The person in front was Marlene, the leader of the resistance group Fireflies in this quarantine zone. After the robbers stole the battery and tried to double-cross her, they were killed instead. However, their leader Marlene was also seriously injured. She knew Joel was a veteran, so she proposed a deal. She asked Joel to take the little girl to the Capitol building in another quarantine zone. The reward would be a large amount of weapons and car batteries. Joel and Tess discussed and found the deal quite worthwhile. The destination isn't far, and with the reward, they can travel further to find Joel's brother. Before leaving, the leader Marlene almost pleaded with Joel to ensure the person reaches the destination. She is crucial to all of humanity. So, the little girl Ellie followed Joel back to his place. Joel was curious about her identity, but Ellie was very smart and cautious. She almost talked Joel into confusion without revealing any information about herself. As night fell, the entire quarantine zone is now under curfew. Joel and Tess, with Riley, smoothly navigate through the sewers to reach outside the quarantine area. It's clear this isn't the couple's first time doing this. They skillfully evaded the patrolling soldiers. However, as they passed through a house, a soldier on a break spotted them. Joel didn't dare to resist and had to crouch down and surrender. As the soldier was about to check Riley's identity and infection status, the little girl suddenly resisted. This action completely enraged the soldier. Joel recalled a similar scene from 20 years ago. He suddenly rushed forward, tackling the soldier to the ground, punching him repeatedly until the soldier was completely unresponsive. Riley, standing nearby, watched with wide eyes, unsure if it was excitement or fear. At that moment, Tess raised the detector and shouted, "Riley is infected." The little girl desperately explains that it's been 3 weeks since she got the wound, and she hasn't gone mad yet. Joel can't worry about this now because other soldiers will arrive soon. They need to leave first.